Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about transit Chiron Sextile or Trine, one's natal Mars. Now, this transit can manifest in physical, emotional wounds, helping and healing others, depleted self-esteem, being in harmony with your actions, your vitality, taking initiative, drive, motivation. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to be motivated and driven to to have emotional wounds. It's about taking care of them, having the energy and vitality, to deal, to still do things, maybe perhaps even contending with physical suffering, or a time to rehab it, to have the energy and enthusiasm to actually do something about it, and having also being able to help and heal others, with certain enthusiasm, being motivated and driven to doing so. I mean, if you have the transit Chiron, say it's an Aquarius, it could be helping others, integrate themselves with society, be more group related, just helping them do things in groups, clubs, or organizations, being more, team oriented at this time. And the current transit of Chiron is in Aries, so basically at the time of this, I made this video, it's in Aries, and that could indicate, feelings of worthlessness or unworthiness. It could be identity issues, at this time. And it's a time, if you're having this transit in that example of the transit Chiron at Aries, it's about could be having more courage to do something about that at this time. And also, could be, if there's feelings of unworthiness, it could be doing something, that you have an enthusiasm for, something that motivates and drives you, where you may be successful in. Now, I want to state that the transit Chiron, okay, this doesn't, of course, it doesn't supplant or replace your natal placement. Your natal Chiron is with you for the duration of your life, of course. That impacts you during the whole course of your life. Now, the transit Chiron can impact you during the time, of the transit, but it doesn't supplant or replace what you have, as far as your natal Chiron placement. And the thing is, too, some of you may wonder, okay, what is the difference between this transit and the conjunction transit to the natal Mars? Now, the aspects with the conjunction compared to the sextile or trine aspect are comparable, but they're not precisely or exactly the same. Sextile and trine are auspicious. They're positive aspects. They're flowing. It's a good blending of the astrological energies. Now, when you have the transit Chiron making a conjunction to the natal Mars, though it's more, conjunctions are, it's amalgamating, intensifying, and integrating. It's a strong concentration of the energies of the astrological placements of, the transit and the natal placement. And what happens is when you have, remember, the conjunctions are neutral, so they can have good and bad qualities. When the transit Chiron, say if it's contacting the natal Mars, it may manifest in some physical related matter, because Chiron is, about suffering and physical and emotional wounds, and Mars is connected with pain and physical injuries. And the thing about it is, but on a positive end, it could be where, if you have the transit Chiron making a conjunction to the natal Mars, it could also be about, having the courage and fortitude to take care of some kind of suffering, or using an abundance of energy to help and heal others. But the thing is, it could be to the point where it's to the exclusion of other things, where you become oblivious to other things in your life because the energy is so intense with the conjunction. So that's where you have the differences in these transits. Now, another thing too is that this transit could also, be about, a time where you're helping and healing others, and doing so again with that strong, the drive and the motivation at this time. And Mars is also, connected with your sex drive, so it's a time where, if you're having any issues, with that, and libido. It's a time where you might be able to actually, do something about that positively, at this point in time. And it might be through healers, or it could just be simply, like being healed by going on the internet and finding out what you need to do to enhance the sex drive, as an example. And now, anatomically speaking, okay, Mars is connected with the head, the skull, the face, and the sexual organs. So it's a time, if you are, if you've had any issues with what I just described that's anatomically connected with Mars, this could be an opportunity to actually do something about it. It might be through, some cases it could be some surgery, like say if there's something with the head or skull, it might be through a surgical procedure. It might, be through some other means at this time, but it's a time because Chiron is, connected with healing. It may be something, it's spirituality too. It might be a time, if you are spiritual, that you might be doing something, in terms of spirituality to try to help you cope, at least cope with those issues a little bit more, so those are, some ways, this transit, could manifest and pan out at this time. And it's also a time where you may, again, if you are, a spiritual person, you may be able to use that to benefit, if there's any issues, with anger, at this time that you're dealing with. This could be, the time where it can, have a very positive impact on that. And it's also about a very good blending of assisting others and having, the right, courage and fortitude in order to do so, at this point in time. And it's also about, helping others with little hesitation or procrastination, but not being overly pushy or coming across as officious or unwanted in doing so at this time. And Chiron is also connected, associated with ineptitude and weakness. So if there's anything, that you might, be feeling, that you might feel some ineptitude or some weakness at this time in your life, it could be a time where, Mars-related people, may be beneficial to it. It could be a sexual partner. It might be somebody, that's in some leadership position, or maybe even law enforcement as, example, where they can help you out at this time. Remember, Chiron is also about depleted self-esteem, so these people may be beneficial to you in dealing with those matters as well. And Mars is also about, combat and confrontation. If there's been any issue where you've had like some physical altercation, it's a time where, you might be, a time where you may be able to heal, those matters. Or it can be, a time as well, the fact that, Mars, Mars is also, about physical injuries as well. So it's a time where you could I would say, deal with that at this time. And if you're having, any depleted, Chiron again is connected with depleted self-worth. It's about having, really the courage to look at yourself and understand why, what's happening, and actually maybe resolve those issues at this time. Now, another thing too, and the thing though is, Chiron, it's interesting because Chiron is connected with physical, could be physical wounds, and Mars is injuries. So it's a time where I would say it's better to be able to deal, with those issues at this time. If there are any physical related, wounds, so to speak, being connected with Mars, it could be a time, considering Mars is also about surgery, that if surgery needs to be done, then it's a time to do it. I think that's one way it could, manifest at this time, because it is a positive aspect. So I would say that is how it might actually, go down. I don't see any, exacerbation of an injury with this transit, because it is a positive transit. If you had this in a square or opposition aspect, it could be something where you might have one, something with some physical suffering might exacerbate with some other physical injury you may be having. But anyway, now hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, now this transit could be positive for helping and healing, which is Chiron. Others, it could be through action, which is Mars. Now, let's say if the natal Mars is in Libra, as an example, it could be doing something, connected with, legalities, or, taking action in legal matters, something with justice, reconciliation, cooperation, as some examples. Now, also too, at this time, issues with depleted self-esteem, which is Chiron, may be dealt with by doing things that require physical strength, which is Mars. Now, let's say if the natal Mars is in Leo, it could be doing something with sports, or it might be being a personal trainer. Maybe there's something with party production or planning. It can be, also too at this time, it could be propitious to deal with suffering, which is Chiron, and being assisted by, it could be a sexual partner, which is Mars. If the transit Chiron is in Virgo, as an example, in the third house, it might be, if you're dealing with, there might be some issues trying to diagnose a vehicle, and maybe a sexual partner can be beneficial in helping you, diagnose it at this time, or it could be, anyway. Next thing I want to get to, also too, or it could even be, I want to get back to what I stated before, and also being able to see maybe the transit Chiron and Virgo in the third house. It could be also about seeing the details in writings at this time, and that could be something where, if you've had some suffering in, an issue where you didn't see all the details in something written, this could be the time where that sexual partner may be able to help you in that example with transit Chiron and Virgo in the third house. Now, another thing too, this could also be a time where physical or emotional trauma, which is Chiron, may be helped just by simple activity and having enthusiasm and doing so, which is Mars. And let's say if the natal Mars is in Scorpio, it might be doing something with some extreme sports in some cases. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.